It's the holiday season.
You're supposed to tell me to start it.
Oh, whoop-de-doo, dickory-dock. I don't know these words.
Don't forget to hang up your sock, 'cause just exactly at 12 o'clock.
He'll be coming down the chimney. Yeah, I don't know words to holiday music very well, but...
Thank you, choir, for 18 years.
We are here. It's For My Family, For My Future special episode, the holiday edition.
To thrive in the holiday season.
How to thrive in the holiday season.
Because we realize...
But before we go to that, we gotta talk about the holidays that we're about to experience.
Yeah.
Because as of recording this podcast, so this will be released right around the Thanksgiving, Christmassy time.
Yep.
We are about to head into the Thanksgiving season for us as a family.
Yep.
And
we are prepping for something special.
We have got the Queen of England coming into our home for Thanksgiving this week. Brittany's 97-year-old Graham.
I think she's 97. Either 96.
Maybe 98.
No, I think she's 96 or 97.
Pretty sure she's 97.
Okay.
97-year-old Graham. Frieda Finkbone.
Friedent
Finkbone is coming to town. And so the Queen of England comes to town. That means that and she's not been to Colorado because obviously she's in a nursing home. She's been caring for her husband who just recently passed away and all of that. So she's coming to see her great-grandkids, the great state of Colorado. And because the Queen of England's coming in town...
So's everybody else.
We're about to have like 20 people descending on the state of Colorado.
We're so excited.
Them all. It's going to be awesome.
And we do something called Thanksmas in our family. Yes. And we can talk about a little bit
Thanksmas
later, but we're excited to...
We are
celebrate Thanksgiving and Christmas, and
it's also funny because we don't have a bedroom. We don't have a bedroom on our main floor.
Yeah.
So she's gonna be staying upstairs, and she's gonna need help up and down the stairs. And so our kids are like, "How are we gonna help Graham get up and down the stairs?" And I was like, "I'm a carrier."
Yeah, she's 4'10", so it's not gonna be
4'10".
Yeah.
And I'm gonna be carrying sweet little Graham up and down the stairs when she wants to come down every day.
She's really excited.
I'm excited for her.
We're all excited. It's going to be a blast.
It's going to be awesome. But we know that, I mean, like, even with all family coming in town, it's going to be great. But also, it's okay to acknowledge, and that's like the whole point of this episode, is it's okay to acknowledge that the holidays aren't always easy.
Right.
Even if you've got a great family situation, for all kinds of different reasons, the holidays can be totally difficult, frustrating, annoying, all the above.
And we want you guys to thrive.
Yeah.
Thrive in it.
I mean, you could be in a situation where, you've got young children, you're carting them around from house to house.
And then you throw in school on top of it, and there's like 14 different school events all packed into like
2 weeks.
2 weeks, and then...
Or maybe you're single and...
Every time you show up to a family function, it's like, when are you going to get married?
Married.
What? I want a daughter-in-law. I don't know why I'm talking like that.
It does remind me of the Christmas Vacation grandma, though.
Grace!
Who wants to say Grace? Grace, she died
30 years ago.
The blessing!
You can't forget. I can't say the blessing very well.
Gosh.
Yeah, but we want you guys to thrive.
Yes, and I feel like we've had seasons where we've not thrived in the holidays, and we've walked away like we've got to change.
Something has to be fixed.
We cannot keep going into the holidays and leaving them frustrated, exhausted, tired, mad, like they're and we've realized that it's not actually on our family, it's on us to make sure that we approach this right so that we can have peace and we can have joy and we can truly enjoy the season and thrive instead of just survive. I feel like most people get to the holidays and it's billed in culture as like celebration, and most people are like, I can't wait for this to be over.
Yeah.
It's tense.
I was even thinking too, not just like relational stuff. Like it could also be, this is the first year without someone special.
Well, like Graham this year.
Yes.
It'll be her first Thanksgiving and Christmas without her husband in 75 years.
Right. Yeah. So it's a doozy.
Yeah.
And there's so much wrapped up in it. And I think for especially young families, not even especially, I won't even say that, especially for families in general, you want it to be one way. You have this expectation of it being something, and then you get through it and you're like, it didn't come close to meeting that expectation. So
that's almost always the source of frustration, is unmet expectation.
Yeah.
And so it could be expectation from, someone who's hosting, someone who's attending. Everyone has unmet expectations, and then we're all frustrated by the end of it. And so we just want to give just a few things that we've learned over the years of how we approach the holidays, and how I think that we're still learning to thrive in the holidays. It's not been something that we've mastered yet at all, but we're working on it. And so
we've got 21 years of holidays under our belt.
Yep.
Almost 17 years of married holidays under our belt, and 12 years of family. So we're still learning, but
gotten it wrong a lot. But I feel like we figured out a few things. If we'll do these few things, it helps us have a better holiday experience.
Absolutely.
So the first one would be that you got to figure out how to, as you go into the holiday season, as you go into Thanksgiving dinner, Christmas, whatever the holiday is that you're about to approach, and you have to go into it. And if you're gathering with a bunch of people, you have to choose to love them.
Yeah.
And I know that sounds so basic, like it's family, of course you love them, but I do think that it's easy to go into these holiday situations with a negative, pessimistic
bent.
Disposition. Like you go into it looking for reasons to be offended or reasons to be frustrated. And you're choosing to go in almost defensive. Like you're already playing out in your mind what your crazy uncle's going to say, what your crazy uncle's going to say, what your cousin and like all these different people are going to, and you walk in just defensive and frustrated.
Right.
It's like, man, you've got to go in and just choose to love these people because you know everything about them and you've had years and years with them.
Right.
But you got to choose to overlook their deficiencies and just say, I'm going to choose to just be a big source of love in my family today.
Right. And you could also get to a place of going, okay, yes, I love them, but how am I going to show them? Like, how am I going to actually treat them like I like them today? Or these 3 days, whatever it is. It's a big one.
And it's a short amount of time.
Very short.
I think that's the other thing that I've come to see over the years is like when we were carting our kids around from house to house and Thanksgiving with my parents and Thanksgiving with your parents, and then it was just exhausting. I was like, wait a minute, it's only like a day.
Right.
And I don't live with these people anymore. It's once, like, man, I can just go in and just choose on this day, I'm going to put aside all of my judgment and all of my frustration. And I'm just going to choose to love. Because in the end, it is a reflection of God's love for us.
100%.
Like, God knows everything annoying about us.
Yeah.
And he yet does not choose to be frustrated, impatient. He chooses just to love.
And to also think about it from a perspective of if you're having these feelings of like, oh gosh, walking in to something, you're also bringing in stuff that might bother somebody else.
Absolutely.
Like, it's not just a one-sided thing.
Yeah.
Like how we show up matters.
Yeah.
And if we can help the people that we are receiving us, or like there's a relationship, there's two sides to it. It's not always everything that's going on in your brain about the situation is the correct one.
Right.
Like you got to think about what it's like on the other side of you.
Yeah. Well, it's like what we said, and I've heard it preached in other churches, and then the way I preached it recently was, your family is messed up, and everyone in your family is messed up.
That means you're messed up.
You're messed up. Like,
yeah.
you're a part of the reason that your family is messed up.
Right.
Because of who you are and,
right.
and what you bring to it.
Yeah.
I remember a long time ago, an old sermon that Stephen Furtick preached a long time ago. And it was one of my, it just stuck with me. It was how to love people who suck the life out of you. And
vampires.
It was a series on vampires. It's like, how do you love people who suck the life out of you? And his thing was, the first thing you have to understand that you suck.
Right.
And I was like, that's so true. If you can go in just with this like spirit of, man, I'm not perfect.
Right.
And I'm not going to hold my family to some standard of this.
Yeah.
And I know that's hard because a lot of times you go into these situations and there's a lot of old wounds. There's things that have happened in your family that have caused a lot of pain. But I just think that if you can choose to walk in, and I think this requires, which is what we're going to get to in our third point. But I think it does require some intentional time with Jesus.
Oh, 100%.
To walk in a spirit of mercy and forgiveness. Yeah. If you've got family drama, you may need to have some conversations at some point. But
maybe not the holidays.
Usually not the holidays.
That's okay.
Just walk in a spirit of mercy and forgiveness.
Yeah.
overlooking wrongs, and love covers a multitude of sins.
Right. And so how do you get to a place where you can walk in covered in love,
Yep.
abounding in love?
Yep.
You walk in prayed up.
Yep. Prayed up.
You walk in having spent time with Jesus ahead of time. I mean, you have to do those things. You cannot go in just thinking, I'm going to be really
Yep.
loving today.
Whatever
because
you
you
gotta
will
do.
get to a place where you're like, I can't do this on my own. You've got to ask the Lord to shut your mouth when
Whatever
you
you have
should.
to do to get with Jesus.
Yeah.
Whatever you have to do to get your heart, your soul, and your mind right heading in, do it.
Do it. Yeah.
If you need to go on a run, if
Yep.
you need to wake up extra early and
Yep.
just get on your knees before God and read your Bible, like, you better get locked in. If you're anticipating it's going to be difficult,
For sure.
because you got to choose mercy, you got to
Yeah.
choose love, you have to choose. I'm not going to look for a reason to be offended today.
Right.
I'm just going to let it go
Right.
and move on.
Right.
So I think that's a big one. Second thing that we were going to talk through is that that we need to prioritize. This is a hard one, and I know this is going to offend some grandmas and grandpas in the house. But I think it's important that if you want you and your family to thrive in the holidays, you have to prioritize your immediate family
Right.
over your extended family. And I know this is really, really touchy. We're walking on eggshells with some of this stuff. But we've experienced ourselves early on in marriage,
Yes.
early on in raising kids. But we've counseled and pastored so many people that feel like the holidays come and it's like the extended family runs the calendar and
Sure.
dictates your life. And you're going around like a crazy person and you just hate it. It's like, whoa, hold up. Your number one priority is no longer your extended family.
Right.
Your immediate family, your spouse and your kids, they are your priority now.
Yeah. And early on in marriage and early on in having kids of your own, it's a compromise on both sides. It's a compromise for the extended family now to go, wait a second, okay, my son, my daughter is now married to a person who has other things going on. It's really hard to step outside of your own selfishness, I think. Because I remember when early on for us, it was like, I want to do this thing that we've always done with my family because it's something we've always done.
Yeah.
And same for you.
Yep.
And then we had to go, wait a minute. We have to make up not make it up. We have to decide
Yes.
on our own,
We have
our
to
own
prioritize.
plan.
And the thing for us, and I know this is going to be really specific to us in our situation, but I think that the principle can apply to other people as
For
well,
sure. Yeah.
is that where the rubber really met the road is how we came up with Thanksmas.
Yes.
Because early on, we realized that for us being in ministry, Christmas time is not an easy time.
No.
The week leading up to Christmas and Christmas Eve services is just a grind. It's a grind, and it's intense, and it's hard. And
It was hard enough just to keep our own hearts right.
right.
Like leading up to something that should be, again, expectation should be the most, what's the song? The most
wonderful time.
wonderful time of the year.
The most wonderful time. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah,
that was
rhythm.
Going. But yeah, like it was hard enough for us to get our hearts right in that. And then adding our kids into the mix.
And then adding grandparents and expectations. And we just were, by the time Christmas Day gets here, we're always just
Blitzed.
wiped. I mean, we're not able to bring our best to anyone.
Right.
And so we just decided, and it was hard at first, but we just decided to tell both sides of our family, hey, when it comes to Christmas, Christmas Eve, Christmas Eve and the week after, we are not going to be with family outside of our immediate family. And so, that was really hard. It disappointed
hard.
people like crazy, and there was all kinds of feelings about it, but we just knew that it was what was best for us. So instead, we came up with Thanksmas.
Yeah.
And it was, we're going to celebrate with both families. We have everybody in, and we do this big Thanksgiving and Christmas combo where the grandparents get to give gifts to the grandkids.
Yep.
And all the Christmas stuff and Thanksgiving stuff happens at once.
Yep.
And there's obviously visits throughout the rest of the year.
Oh, for
where
sure.
We see each other.
Yeah.
But we just had to make this decision that even though it's hard, and I get it, right? Like, part of the reason that this is so hard is that for the extended family that used to be the immediate family,
Right.
for grandparents, for for our parents.
Aunts and uncles, right. All that.
They spent years and years and years and years making memories with us.
Sure.
And now they have to adjust to a new reality where we are no longer their primary family.
Right.
You know, their immediate family.
Right.
And so that's a really hard adjustment.
It is.
But we could not keep going this. I mean, I was starting to dread Christmas every year where I'm like, and it's not because I don't want to be with them. It's because I'm just so tired and it doesn't work for our family.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the principle is like, you got to figure out, and it takes communication between the spouses. Mm-hmm. You got to figure out what's best for your family and prioritize it. Mm-hmm. Like if you want to make a great memory with your kids, if you want Christmas to be, you know, slow and calm and focused and all that, you're going to have to make some hard decisions.
Right.
And then on the flip side, I think too, one of the things we've talked about is that when we get to the place, because we're in it right now, we are making all kinds of great memories with our kids. Mm-hmm. And when they get older and they go on and have their own spouse, we've already said, we want to be the type of grandparents, parents that can just free them up to say, you prioritize your family and let us know how we can be involved or when we can be involved, but you have no pressure or expectation from us.
Right.
And I pray that we'll have the ability to do that because I know it's going to be hard.
I know it will be hard.
It will be really hard.
Yeah. I think something too to touch on is you kind of touched on it, but I want to go a little bit deeper is when we were making these decisions, we knew that from the other person's perspective, that they were probably looking at it like, oh my gosh, this is such a selfish decision. How could you possibly, make this decision? And in reality, where we were making that decision from was so that we could bring our best to whatever it is. Yeah. And we knew because of how insane Christmas season is, and I mean, our kids need, like, it's different being a pastor's kid around Christmas. We needed to get to a place where we could say, I want to be able to, like, be my best around you and not be like, how much longer do we have to do? Oh my gosh, I'm so tired. Yeah. We've got this and this and this and this. We can't, like, it was almost like we were choosing quality, our quality time, instead of, oh, well, we spent 2 hours with you and I was exhausted and short-tempered and all of that from the get-go.
But that requires being willing to, and it's the hardest part of this whole deal, it requires being willing to disappoint people.
Yeah, it does.
And that is so hard.
Because you can see it on their face or hear it in their voice.
The holidays are so sentimental and so special.
Absolutely.
There's even more expectation.
It carries a lot.
It's so hard. So that's where I think you just got to be patient. Don't be mean about it.
Yeah.
You got to be filled with grace because, a lot of your family, they're adjusting to new realities as well. But I do think that if you're going to thrive, you will never thrive in the holidays if you are letting your extended family run the show.
Right.
And your immediate family is taking a back seat.
Right.
And it requires so much dialogue, so much, because like you said, there are things you wanted to do that I was like, that I don't want to do that.
That's not going to fit.
Things I want to do that you're like, that doesn't work for me. We got to create something new, because at the end of the day, and I think this is something really important for every couple to realize, is that when you get married and when you start having kids, you are now the spiritual leaders of your family. You are the spiritual patriarch and matriarch.
Yeah.
Your mom and dad may have helped you come to faith. Maybe they were a spiritual leader. Maybe they still lead you and mentor you in some ways. But for your family, you are the God-ordained, God-empowered spiritual leaders of your family.
Right.
And so you got to lead.
Right.
You can't just react and let everyone else run the show.
Right.
You got to figure out what's best for your family. Prioritize the immediate over the extended.
Yeah. And also know that it's not what you decide when you're 6 months married is not going to be the same when you start having kids. Totally. And once you start having kids, it's not going to be the same setup, the same situation. Things change. And it's not like we've made this decision and we're sticking with it for the next 35 years.
Always.
It's like, hey, for right now, this is what's best. And bringing people along in that is important and hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which brings us to the last thing.
Yep.
The most important piece.
The most important piece.
Thriving in the holidays.
Yeah.
Is that you have to fight for a way, find a way to make Jesus the focus of every holiday.
Yep.
In a culture that tries to distract us with everything else, you gotta find a way to make Jesus the focus. Even in, like, Thanksgiving is not a Christian holiday.
Yeah, but it so can be.
My goodness, we're talking about gratitude.
Yeah.
How can we not get back to Jesus?
Yeah.
But I think if you really want to thrive, you got to bring it back to Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. It needs to be a time for you and your family to focus on Jesus, to love Jesus, to talk about Jesus. I feel like one of the things I've tried to do that I felt weird about early on, but I've grown to be way more comfortable with it, is I try to take advantage of that right before we eat Thanksgiving dinner, praying together. And I never let it be just a prayer. Like, I want to cast a little vision. I want to share a little bit of the heart of God, help people understand this is about Jesus, help people understand that there are tons of people in our world who don't have what we have. And man, we're so blessed. We need to be grateful for that. And then pray to Jesus, mention Jesus as much as we can. Jesus, 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 Jesus.
Yeah.
Because I want our kids, when our kids think about gratitude, I want them to think less about their material possessions and more about Jesus.
Absolutely.
It's so hard to do, though, because, man, I feel like the day gets going so quick with parades and 5K races and
Black Friday.
Black Friday's coming, like all the things. There's a million things to distract you from Jesus.
Right.
And then you get to Christmas, and it's like,
oh my gosh, it's insane.
Even harder to make it about
which
Jesus.
Which is ridiculous.
It's
like when you
crazy.
think about it. Yeah.
And so I think we should probably go on our little rants about Christmas.
Okay.
So that people hear our hearts in this.
Yeah. I want to give one more example of Thanksgiving real quick.
Okay.
Rather than it being everyone just comes over and you sit down and you eat a meal, like, what better way to show your gratitude for them and just your thankfulness for the Lord and for bringing the family together and for all of that stuff than telling them.
Right.
Like, hey, I am so thankful you came. I'm so thankful you're my mom. I'm so thankful that I got to be, that I got to fix our meal, whatever it is. Like, just on Thanksgiving, tell people that you're grateful for them and that you're excited excited that they're there and all of that stuff. Just coming from a, like, kind of a fruit of the spirit moment.
Yeah.
Like, when you have thankfulness and gratitude and all of that, love, joy, peace, all that. Just be so, like...
And express it.
Talk about it. It's okay.
I think a lot of people say, well, they know I'm thankful for them. Gratitude that is not expressed is not truly gratitude.
No, it's not.
You got to say it.
Yeah.
You got to say it. And it does hit people. I mean, we've seen it, like, impact our family when we can you look somebody in the eye and say, I'm so thankful for you. Because people don't hear that
right.
often.
And then it sets your heart right, too.
Correct.
Like... Yeah, I think
So
it
good.
just brings you closer to Jesus.
Absolutely.
When you can look at somebody and go, hey, thanks for being a part of my life. Thanks for being here.
Grateful for you.
I'm grateful for you.
Yeah, it's awesome. I love that.
All right, Christmas.
We are not the crazy people that are like, you can't talk about Santa with your kids. We're not like, but,
comma,
and. We are probably the lowest, like, we probably celebrate the Santa world.
And
the elf on the shelf world probably lower than most.
And it, yeah.
Because I can't find a way.
But there's a reason for it.
Yeah. I can't find a way to properly communicate the gospel to my kids while I'm still talking about all these dumb Christmas.
Yeah, it's super muddy.
Traditions. It gets super muddy.
And so, like, we are raw, passionate, and clear as a church, but we are raw, passionate, and clear as a family. And there's nothing less clear
than Santa.
Elf on the Shelf, all of that.
The elf
when you're trying to say, hey, kids. So, like, the reason for the season...
Yeah, the reason for the season...
is
that God loves you even if you're on the naughty list.
Right. Like, it's not about being a good girl.
No.
Or a good boy.
It's not. Like, the elf is there to watch you and make sure that... and report to Santa, like... Yeah, God's...
And if you do it, hey,
it's all good, man.
If you do it, it's fine. Just be really cognizant of the fact that...
You're sending your kids two different messages.
You are.
100%.
And
you can do it playfully, all that. I just think unless you are overwhelmingly communicating the gospel to people.
Yeah.
Then... to your kids.
Right.
Then they're going to miss out on it.
Yeah.
They're going to get confused.
And there's nothing worse than when you get to a place of, all right, so it's Christmas morning and we've just done, like, we do this thing called the Jesse tree. It's probably it's probably phasing out, but you can look it up on Google and figure it out if you want to do it. It's like a daily
Devo as a family.
Devo the month of December, or I think from Thanksgiving until Christmas, that basically is trying to tie everything in Scripture back to Jesus and back to Christmas in some way, shape, or form. And so it's worked okay up until this point.
Right.
And now I think we're getting to a place where we need to move on to something else.
Yeah.
But when you do all that, if you do all that, like our growing up thing was my poppy would sit us all down on Christmas Eve after Christmas Eve services and read Luke, like the account of Jesus' birth. And it was super cool, but it was also super like a tradition that we always did. So if you're going to do that, and then you wake up the next morning and it's just Santa has come, all of these gifts are from him, it takes the focus, it takes the limelight off of Jesus. And that's the whole, it says Christmas. Like, that's it.
And I know it's going to sound like we're like super stodgy, like,
no,
you can't celebrate Christmas, but I just think we don't call this out for what it really is. Like, I think Solomon, our middle child, is probably the easiest example of it.
Yeah.
Like, he just does not pretend.
No.
And when it comes to this, he'll say all the times, like, yeah, I love talking about Jesus, but can we open the presents? Because that's what we're really here for.
Yeah.
You know? And I get it, because that's what everyone's excited about.
Yeah.
It's okay. Not saying you can't have presents, all that. But, like, we don't even put on gifts, like, from Santa. Because, real talk, I don't want Santa getting credit for the gifts that I purchased for them.
We worked
that
hard
came out
for.
Our wallets.
Yeah, we doing it.
Santa ain't getting none of that credit.
Yeah. But here's the deal. We've never once said these are not from Santa.
Right.
We have just, like, we have some fun things at the end of opening up gifts that are typically unwrapped. And I think along the way, some of our kids, like, over time have been like, are these like the Santa gifts? Or like, what?
We're like, no,
these
are from us.
No, these are from us. But it's not that they don't necessarily believe in Santa. It's just not the focal point.
We just downplay it. Because
Super
culturally it is a big deal. And because at the end of the day, we want our kids to understand the gospel. Yeah. That God loves you no matter what you've done, that your good works do not earn you anything better. It is just God's gift. Like, and Christmas is hard to mesh all that together.
Oh, it so is.
But even bigger than the gifts and stuff, I just feel like on those days, you just need to find ways to pray with your family, read the Bible with your family, make it about Jesus, focus on Jesus. And if you'll do that, even if the meal doesn't go right, the gifts aren't perfect, whatever, as long as Jesus is the focal point of it, you will get to the end of that day and feel like, man, this was such a good family day for us.
Right. Like, think about it maybe from this perspective. If you're just like throwing a birthday party for Jesus. Like, I mean, Solomon has straight up asked, if this is for Jesus, why do we get presents?
Yep.
It's like, well, because we're throwing a birthday party for Jesus.
Yeah. And Jesus.
And we want to celebrate.
Jesus wants us. Jesus' gift. Jesus' love is always giving to us.
Yes.
So Jesus.
And so it's the greatest joy for us to watch you open presents on Christmas.
To celebrate Jesus.
To celebrate Jesus. And then he's like,
it's still kind of mental gymnastics. Christmas is complicated.
It's complicated.
But like, even if you don't have kids, if you're in a hurting season, if this is your first Christmas without a loved one, if you will make Jesus the focus of it, I'm telling you, he will show up in such powerful ways to comfort, to bring peace, to bring joy, and you'll get more out of it if Jesus is the focus than any number of gifts could ever give you.
Absolutely.
And so, if you want to thrive, you got to make Jesus the focus.
Yep.
I'm excited this year.
I am too.
I'm excited for Thanksgiving. I'm excited for all the people coming in.
Me too.
And then Christmas. I cannot believe the holidays are already here.
I know.
It's insane.
It's wild.
So we hope it's helpful to you guys. We love y'all. Praying that it's a great holiday season for Peak City as we head into Christmas services. It's going to be awesome. So invite your friends.
Do you want to give Christmas service times?
Christmas service times. We will be, yes. No, let's
Not
do that.
yet.
Let's do that in service.
Ooh, cliffhanger.
Let's do that in service. No need for that. All right.
Okay.
For my family, for my future, holiday episodes out.
See ya.